Hi, my name is Thomas van Beek and I'm a guitar player from a very little country called Belgium. So in the last 20 years I've seen a lot of people struggle when they started playing guitar. So in this video I'd like to explain 5 big mistakes that new players often make. Although this video is actually focused on playing the electric guitar, these big mistakes also apply to learning any instrument. Let's start with an obvious but quite often made mistake, and that's bad posture. I advise practice sitting down most of the time, but also standing up now and then. Now let's start with good standing posture. Besides the fact it looks really cool and rockstarish, this is one of the worst things you can do as a guitar player. This is not a good posture, especially not for the wrist of your left hand. A good posture for standing is when your guitar is hanging so high that it starts to look unsexy and geeky. Especially if you're a lead guitar player, it's best to have it a little higher than usual to make sure there isn't too much tension on your left hand. Now when you're performing on stage, you might want to hang your guitar just a little lower, so you don't look like Steve Urkel that pulled up his pants to his armpits. We all know you play guitar to get girls, so you might want to look at least a little bit handsome on stage. But when you're rehearsing at home or with your band, there's no need to look handsome at all, unless you have a crush at someone from the band. So it's best to hang it a little higher again. When you experience pain from your left wrist, it can take weeks before it has healed properly, so we really want to avoid that. It's probably one of the most common issues among guitar players. Another common issue is back problems. I personally like to use lightweight guitars such as this Strandberg guitar, which weighs only 2.4 kilograms. Now let's talk about sitting posture. I personally use 2 different sitting postures and I switch between the two about every half hour. The first one is the most common used posture among guitar players and looks like this. If you're uncomfortable in this position, it's because the position of the chair is too high and this results in your guitar slipping from your leg. Also, a footstool might help solve this problem. The second one is the classical guitar posture, but it can also be used for playing electric guitar. Just make sure you don't screw up your guitar cable and also use a footstool. This posture is really good to release tension in your left hand and right shoulder. To reduce back and neck problems, it's a good idea not to look at your guitar all the time. Of course, as a beginning player, you look at your fretboard, but just try to look away now and then, so you start learning to play blind. Practice playing in front of a mirror. This way you can also look how sexy you are. Now the last posture improvement you should consider is the pick angle. The first 3 or 4 years I actually held my pick like so. I started getting pain in my thumb, especially while learning sweep picking. I discovered that most guitar players actually hold the pick in the opposite direction. It took me a few months to adapt to the new position. I'm not saying that the first angle is wrong, a lot of players use it without a problem, such as Ola England, but for me personally it was painful. I could actually bend my thumb more than 90 degrees back then. That doesn't look healthy to me. Mistake number 2, bad practicing habits. Now, what is good practice? Good practice is consistent, so you need to play regularly. Create a set of simple goals. For example, play half an hour every day. Most people tend to play randomly. Now this might work for some people, but usually beginners tend to lose interest in playing because they don't have consistency in their practicing schedule. Of course, we don't always feel like we want to play the guitar, but if we want to reach our goals, we need to practice consistently. That's the key to becoming a great guitar player. Practice makes perfect. I don't believe in natural talents at all. Think of it as the fairest way to be rewarded. If you put lots of energy into playing the guitar, you will be rewarded with the ability to play the guitar. How awesome is that? Another issue that most beginning guitar players have is when they learn something, they have the tendency to play it over and over again. Of course, it's fun that you're able to play something, but you need to move on and learn something new. Challenge yourself. And if you don't know what to play next, here are some key words to get you inspired. Another bad habit is playing fast and sloppy. don't play fast and sloppy, but instead focus on accuracy. That means playing slow and at the same pace, so don't speed up or down. A great tool for playing accurate is by using a metronome. Did you know that you can use a free one when you just Google metronome? Mistake number 3, wrong investments. One of the biggest misconceptions when you want to play the electric guitar is that you first need to buy an acoustic or classical guitar. If you want to own a dog, do you buy a cat first? Exactly. Don't waste your time on learning to play acoustic guitar while you can actually learn to play electric guitar right away. Also the other way around, of course. Don't learn electric guitar if you're only interested in classical guitar or acoustic guitar. Okay, so you want to buy your first electric guitar, but which one? And what else do you need? Well, actually just owning an electric guitar and some guitar picks is enough to get you started. My advice for buying an electric guitar is buy a normal shaped electric guitar, such as a Stratocaster. Those are the most comfortable guitars to play. For example, don't buy a weirdly shaped guitar like a V. They are not easy guitars to practice with while sitting down. Also know that one of the most important parts of your guitar are the pickups. They're the most prominent factor of the guitar's sound. So when you buy your first guitar, make sure it has decent pickups. You don't necessarily need an amplifier unless you really want to play with distortion. In that case, you can buy a small amplifier with an integrated speaker or go for a digital unit like a Line 6 pod. These often come with different amplifier presets, some effects, and you can use headphones with them. They're an all-in-one solution because you can have all kinds of sounds and practice playing guitar with headphones. Your family doesn't need to hear your amazing playing all the time. There are some other great digital units such as Kemper, Quad Cortex and XFX. Now those are quite expensive and you shouldn't buy one of these unless you're very sure you're making an investment you won't regret. Now for your first guitar, don't buy an overly expensive guitar. On the other hand, don't buy the cheapest thing you can find, because it probably won't play really good and you want to get rid of it sooner or later. I recommend not spending your whole budget on a guitar, but instead have some spare savings and invest in lessons, good books or exercises. Especially if you're new to music and this is your first instrument, I'd highly recommend getting lessons. And that brings us to mistake number 4. Mistake number 4. Not learning music theory and not taking lessons. Yes, I know, music theory sounds really boring and you learn a lot of stuff that might not look interesting at first and you just want to jam. But in order to become a solid musician, you have to learn as much as possible so you can reach your full potential. Also, music theory can help you master your instrument even more. For example, this exercise is a minor lick. Let's create a variation of this exercise by applying music theory and turn it into a major lick. This way you can turn one exercise into a bunch of exercises. Another great benefit of music theory is learning how to improvise. Let's improvise in the key of G major. Besides the fact it takes your playing to the next level, it's also really fun. I highly recommend attending music school for at least 2 years. You can also look for a private teacher, but this usually costs a lot more. And in my experience, not every teacher has the right knowledge to do so. Teachers in music schools are qualified to do this job.
This guy on YouTube's telling us we need to attend music school, but one of my favorite guitar players doesn't even know music theory, and he's a self-taught musician, and he's absolutely amazing.
True, you can develop your own skill set and become a great self-taught musician. But if there's something that I regret, then it's that I've learned music theory way too late. Most people that are self-taught musicians don't know a lot of music theory. And that's okay. But I truly believe if they would learn music theory, they would become even better musicians. I mean, it doesn't hurt to know music theory at all. But of course, in the end, it's up to you. Now, some people think that when you know music theory, you're not writing music anymore from the heart. Oh, well, that's bullshit actually, because you don't need to apply music theory all the time. You can see it as a toolbox that you can use whenever you want. So, I personally have written a lot of music without knowing any music theory, and now that I know some music theory, my writing has only improved, and I don't apply music theory all the time. Usually I just use my ears and I'm looking for a melody and add some chords and blah blah blah. And usually music theory is just a toolbox for me, so when I'm stuck at writing music, I just see what I can do with music theory, and it helps me progress my writing. So it only helps me. Conclusion: music theory and taking lessons can help us reach our goals and full potential as a musician way faster. Mistake number 5: knowing zero about gear. Now, being a guitar player goes much further than ramming some notes out of a piece of wood with strings attached. Keep in mind you also have to maintain your instrument. For example, changing your strings, cleaning your fretboard, or adjusting the height of the bridge and adjusting the truss rod. Now, all these things might sound alien to you, but that's okay. You'll learn about all of these things gradually. Besides maintaining your guitar, there are plenty of other things to learn, such as knowing how an amplifier works, how to record your guitar playing, the difference between cables, working with different music software such as Guitar Pro, Cubase or Dorico, etc. Alright, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and there's a lot more coming soon. So please consider subscribing and join the Thevon clan. I appreciate all the support, and I hope to see you in the next video.